one, and I've seen some of the data, it depends on which ACO model or sort of bundled payment initiative one is looking at. I also, to make sure I say this, many of these results are still early. So I presented 2 years of ACO results. I presented, several quarters of bundles results. So as a scientist, I will tell you, 2 years at least, 2 years, 600,000 plus beneficiaries. That data is a little more solid, especially the bundles as an example. 500 plus providers, probably a couple 100,000 bennies, but only 3/4 of data. So one, I think, we need to see how this data plays out. Two, and I didn't make this point, so thank you for asking the question, we're adjusting these models all the time, which is very different than the traditional, CMS would have a demo, it would run for 5 years, a report would come out 3 years later. Pioneer ACOs, we made adjustments as we learned, at least quarterly. Bundles, we make major adjustments about at that cycle, and it's learning. We have learning communities on all these. So actually one of the learnings came from Penn, where people identified an issue with outliers that we hadn't thought of, and then we put that into the model. So, I think, do I think ACOs, bundles, and advanced primary care will likely work for the US health system? Yes. Do I think the models we have today will be the end? No. We're going to need to keep learning and adjusting the models over time. So I think the concepts are on target, but we're going to have to measure quality and cost and learn over time. Your second one is interesting. The short version is it's statutory. From an innovation center construct in law, if it improved quality, but it also improved cost, it does not meet the statutory criteria to scale. Also in law, I run our coverage decisions. I'm not allowed to, by law, look at cost. Congress has told me I make coverage decisions. I make them frequently. I am not allowed by law to look at cost, which means literally if somebody internally is starts to talk about cost, because I get FOIA'd all the time, do not tell me. I do not want it in the record that Dr. Conway heard about the cost. Other comments or questions? Kevin?
One of the fascinating elements to that is within the same organization, you have part of the organization where you're not allowed to consider cost as part of coverage decisions. But as you know, CMMI will not fund anything unless there's a belief that it's going to save more money than it costs in the short term. Can you reconcile those two points?
Yeah. It's a conundrum that on one side on coverage, you're not allowed to look at cost, and on the other side, we have to invest in models with the ability to decrease cost. On the Innovation Center, I think the beauty of it is, it really is, when we launch the models, I'll tell you, we do not, some people think, they just look at cost, they just want cost to go down. We want both. We're very focused on both the quality and cost side. If there was a construct where we could invest in things that improved quality by more than they raised costs, that's value. And I would argue as a nation, we should make those investments because they're valuable investments in terms of quality over cost. That's not the world I happen to live in, but it does mean that we have invested in some models that our hypothesis is that it will be, cost neutral to minimal savings, but it will really improve quality.